Israel's military has declared Gaza City a, quote, dangerous combat zone. It comes as the IDF confirmed the initial stages of an attack on Gaza City and said it was operating with great force on the city's outskirts. Israel's also said that a tactical pause in military activity for humanitarian reasons, now that has been in place since last month, will no longer apply to the city. As fighting intensifies, Palestinians are preparing to evacuate once again.
The number of my family members is 7. I was displaced from Gaza City to the south to Khan Yunis. I was displaced 4 times at Khan Yunis. I was displaced to Rafah. When the tanks entered Rafah, I moved to western Rafah, then to Khan Yunis, then to Nusayrat, then to Khan Yunis, then to Gaza City. I was displaced about 9 or 10 times. Of course, the cost is enormous and the situation is really difficult. What should we do? Do we stay here to die, to be broken? My 2 brothers died. My mother was martyred. My cousins were killed before my eyes. What should we do? We keep moving from one place to another until God above looks upon us.
All right, CNN's Nada Bashir is following the story for us. And Nada, we're just hearing these tragic stories of people being displaced once again. In the meantime, the IDF says and declaring the Gaza City is a dangerous combat zone. What is the latest?
Well, look, Eleni, we've been hearing those warnings from the Israeli military for some time now around the intensification of their planned military operation. We know, of course, that the Israeli Security Cabinet, Prime Minister Netanyahu's Security Cabinet, had approved for a takeover of Gaza City by the Israeli military. And what we've been seeing over the last few days is the Israeli military encircling Gaza City, moving closer into the city. And then simultaneously, we've been seeing these evacuation orders intensifying. Now, the Israeli military has warned that evacuation for civilians in Gaza City is, in their words, inevitable. We've seen, according to civilians on the ground, Israeli drones, quadcopters dropping leaflets on this part of Gaza, telling civilians they need to evacuate and move south, that the Israeli military operation will double down on Gaza City. And we've certainly been seeing that over the last few days, just on the outskirts and in the northern parts of the city, in particular in parts of northern Gaza, heading towards the city, where we have seen intensified artillery fire and airstrikes being carried out. They say focusing on dismantling Hamas infrastructure. But again, as we have seen time and time again in Gaza, these are areas that are, of course, filled with civilians. And while some have taken heed of those warnings and evacuated and moved southwards, many are saying that they will stay put. And of course, as you were hearing from that testimony just now, for so many civilians in Gaza, in fact all civilians in Gaza, they have been forced to evacuate time and time again. This is not the first time. There is no guarantee of safety wherever they evacuate to, and of course the conditions are dire. And I think what's important to note, in addition to Gaza City now being declared a dangerous combat zone by the Israeli military, is that there will no longer, according to the IDF, be any tactical pauses. And these pauses were put in place for humanitarian reasons, because of the deepening and worsening humanitarian crisis in Gaza and across Gaza City. We know, of course, that the UN-backed report had identified famine, confirmed famine in this particular part of Gaza. So there is certainly fear and concern that the humanitarian situation will only continue to grow more catastrophic.
Yeah, absolutely. And the consequences of this. I want to go to an important story as well, where Israel's operations have led to the recovery of 2 deceased hostages. What more do we know on that?
That's right. This was confirmed earlier today by the Israeli Prime Minister's office, the recovery of one body of a deceased hostage and the remains of an unidentified hostage at this stage. The identified hostage has been named as Ilan Weiss, a 56-year-old hostage who was taken captive from Kibbutz Be'eri on October 7th, along with his wife and with his daughter. Now, his wife and daughter were actually released from captivity during that initial ceasefire in November 2023. At the time, it was believed that Ilan Weiss was still alive. However, his community in Kibbutz Be'eri had confirmed just a few months later that he had in fact been killed on October 7th, and his body then taken captive and held in Gaza by Hamas there. So that has been confirmed now by the Israeli Prime Minister's office. It's unclear at this stage where exactly the 2 bodies were recovered by the IDF. That information hasn't been provided, but it's understood that they were both recovered in the same IDF operation. And we have heard from the Hostages and Missing Families Forum. They've said that alongside the grief and pain that, of course, this will bring to family members, it also provides some comfort, in their words, to the family after 692 days of waiting in the nightmare of uncertainty. And of course, this will raise questions around the conditions of those hostages remaining in Gaza, now said to be 48 hostages remaining in Gaza, 20 of whom are believed to still be alive.
All right, Nada Bashir, thank you so much for that update.